Hi everyone! So today I'm going to show you how to make the most simple, basic version of sourdough bread, which can also be made in the same day. So we are going to only need some simple ingredients for this: a bit of water, all-purpose flour, a bit of salt, and also our sourdough starter. Now, ideally, you would have your sourdough starter prepared in the morning, so that means you can feed it the previous evening. But if you happen to forget to do that, this recipe can also work as a same-day recipe that includes feeding the starter in the morning. So in my case, I actually remembered to feed it last night, so my starter is bubbly and active. But like I said, you can simply just feed it in the morning, wait for 4 to 6 hours, I would say, and you can go ahead and start your bread then, and you will still have it ready by dinner. We'll just jump straight to it, and I'm going to talk you through the whole process and share a few tips and tricks as we go. I'm going to start by pouring some water into the bowl. Then I'm adding 8 grams of salt and also 160 grams of sourdough starter. I like to mix my starter and water together very well because I don't really measure when I'm feeding my starter, and sometimes it ends up being a little more thick and sometimes it ends up being a little thinner. So I usually just mix flour, water and salt together before I add in the flour. The exact measurements and all the recipe instructions are on the link down below in the description box on my blog Stretch and Folds if you want to check that out. One thing I wanted to note here is that if you are a beginner, I suggest, in doubt, always use a bit more flour. That way the dough will be a bit more manageable, it won't stick to your fingers as much, and the bread will be absolutely delicious either way. Maybe you just won't have those really big holes in it. Now we are going to go ahead and mix up this dough. Now, as you can see, I'm using the Danish whisk here. It's really a matter of personal preference. I started using Danish whisk because that was something everyone was using for sourdough bread. But honestly, I find myself reaching for just for the regular kitchen spoon more often than not. So for the purpose of this video, I'm still using the Danish whisk, but just so you know, you don't have to order it online before you attempt to bake bread, because it really doesn't matter that much. Now, as you can see here, what we're left with is a very sticky dough that is impossible to manage right away. That's why we're going to leave it here for about 30 minutes. I would say minimum 30 minutes. You can do 60, you can do 80, it doesn't matter. The important thing is that you protect it from air, because the air will dry the dough out. That's why you need to cover it either with a wet kitchen towel, with kitchen foil. I usually just use a shower cap. You can get them cheap, you can reuse them, so they're very practical to just throw over and then uncover it when you will be doing your stretch and folds. Now, as you can see here, I'm wetting my hands with some water first, and then I'm attempting to make some stretch and folds, but keep in mind that this is the first round of stretch and folds, so the dough is really sticky and wet, and at that point quite hard to manage. And when you come to the third or fourth round of stretch and folds, the dough will become really silky, smooth, and very elastic. So that's what you're looking for. After about 2 to 4 rounds of stretch and folds, depending on how much time you have, the dough will do its bulk ferment. That means it will rise, it will almost double in volume, and it will develop those beautiful bubbles that you will be able to see if you have a glass bowl. When shaping the dough, you need to make sure that the dough will not stick to your surface too much. If it's properly fermented, it shouldn't stick as much either way, but I still like to sprinkle a bit of flour on my surface and also on my tea towel, Benetton basket. Then I take the dough from the bowl, and it should come out of the bowl nicely. I don't have, nor do I recommend, a specific shaping technique. You can Google them if you want them, but the point is to just get it into a nice bowl and then gently slide it towards yourself with both hands. I hope you can see on the video what I'm doing because it's really hard to describe. But after you do that, you take the dough again, you put it into a tea towel lined Benetton basket and you stitch it up. Again, you don't need any fancy techniques here, you just pinch your dough together with your fingers to kind of stitch it up. Then you'll want to cover your dough with something airtight again. I'm using my shower cap, and put it either into the fridge for the whole night or leave it at room temperature for about an hour or two. During this time, the dough will do its second rise or its second ferment, and after that it will be prepared to be baked. Whether you did the second rise in the fridge or on room temperature, be sure to preheat your Dutch oven before you score the bread. Again, you don't need fancy equipment for scoring. You can score it with either a sharp knife or just a bare razor blade. Just be careful not to cut yourself. Then we are going to transfer the dough into a hot Dutch oven, and I usually splash just a little bit of water down on the sides of my Dutch oven, and then I quickly cover it with a lid so I capture as much steam as possible. Put the bread in the oven for 30 minutes at 460 Fahrenheit, then take the lid off and bake it for another 10 minutes with the lid off at 440 Fahrenheit. After taking the bread out of the oven, put it on a cooling rack, cover it with a damp kitchen towel and leave it to cool for at least an hour before you slice into it. If you prefer your loaves really crusty, you can also just leave it to cool off on the cooling rack. I hope this tutorial was useful to you. I really wanted to show you that to bake a great loaf of sourdough bread, you don't need any fancy equipment. You don't need to take vacation days for it. You can simply make it in the same day just by understanding some basic principles. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to see more videos about sourdough baking, food from scratch and natural living. I upload new videos every Friday and I hope to see you soon. Bye!